Let's dig into our due diligence and market research. So, target market. Choosing this is out of the manual, by the way. So this is all in there for you. Everyone who invests in real estate wishes they had a crystal ball to see into the future. Some people seem to always be in the right place at the right time when picking real estate markets that they enter. What do they know that we don't? We need to first accept the fact that real estate follows trends, imitates what happens elsewhere, and is somewhat predictable over time. With this in mind, the best way to predict the future is to study the past. Focus on universal trends that apply to any geographic target when we are researching, which is home buyer behavior. Why do people buy homes? People buy because of location, use, cost, emotional appeal, pride of ownership, or maybe to make a statement. All of these are human emotions and are all predictable. In fact, selecting a property that is likely to go up in value is pretty easy. The problem is knowing when that will happen, market trends. So let's say it's 2007 and you buy an investment property in a really nice family neighborhood. You find a motivated seller, get a slight discount, then the market crashes. And even though you got a discount at the time you bought it, the property value goes down even below that, and you ended up holding a long-term rental, which happened to a lot of people that were in the investment industry during the crash, right? So I think looking at the past will help you avoid things where, I mean, we all know somebody that maybe lost a house, or investors or builders or contractors that went under when the real estate market tanked, which to me doesn't seem like it's that long ago. And I see certain people now in the industry making the same mistakes and they didn't learn their lessons. Okay. And it's tough. Okay. Now, when you're picking a target market, one of the main things that you have to look at, you guys, whether you're investing in tax liens or tax deed methodology and buying a tax deed state or buying real estate in general, is you have to look at jobs. You have to look at what's going on with the economy. So I spent some time in West Virginia in the late 80s for 2 years, okay? And at that time, the coal industry was already devastated. This would have been about 87 through 89, already devastated coal industry. And, you know, where I grew up in Washington State, you would see at most fast food restaurants, teenagers working there. That was one of the most surprising things to me to see in certain areas, is that every job had an adult working at it because the economy was so strained. And the jobs were just dry there, and it was more rental markets than owner occupant type markets. So that particular market, if I was looking at that time to do fix and flips, for example, and I was too young to do it back then, but that was not at that time a fix and flip market, because there was not a lot of people that could afford, based on the labor market, to actually buy a house. Okay, so we would classify that as a classic rental market in many of those cities there at that period of time. Okay, so if you're targeting a market where maybe jobs are a little bit more difficult, or people buying homes is down for whatever reason, then maybe you're focusing on, say, a rental market. Okay, so some of the resources that I use for labor are Bureau of Labor and Statistics. They have different reports, and a lot of the times these hit the headlines, but the headlines just give kind of a national economy as far as jobs, and a lot of times it's politically motivated to say a certain official is doing poorly or they're doing well. And I don't care about the politics of it. I just want to know if a certain market, if jobs are on the upswing or they're going down. Now, a couple good resources locally. I'm just going to randomly go to Google here. Okay, guys? We're going to just go to Google. And I wish I could talk to you guys and you could shout out some areas. But let's pick, I don't know, let's Portland, Oregon. Okay, Oregon Chamber of Commerce. I just typed in the CH and it pops up. Okay. We go to the Portland Business Alliance. Okay, Portland Chamber of Commerce, home of East Portland. And guess what? Now these guys want to sell you into their network, and that's how they make a revenue. That's fine. But also they're trying to attract businesses into the area. So they're going to say, hey, there's 4 new plants getting opened up in town. We've got some new highways going in. There's a new bridge being built, and we're renovating our downtown area with nice little shops and a Starbucks and flower shops and all that fun stuff. So they're going to have a pretty decent bead on general business and so forth. Now, I have to take this at a little bit of a grain of salt because, they're always maybe painting a rosy picture, okay, on what's going on in the area to attract more business to it. And I get that. But at the end of the day, I'm going to look for the good and the bad. And if there is economic growth, usually a local chamber of commerce is going to know everything that are the new projects and new companies thinking about coming into town. I will tell you this, guys. Several years ago, maybe 5, 6 years ago, I want to say 7 years ago, Adobe, everybody uses Adobe, right? They announced that they were going to build a major employment center about 10 minutes from my home. And at that time, the area that they were going to put it up just had a gas station on a freeway exit and a couple of very small older business buildings and a big sod farm, a junkyard. And now, all right, let me just show you. Okay. This is why this is so critical, guys. 10 years ago, I'm gonna go to a map here, and let's go to Google Earth. I am not kidding you, guys. Okay, so this is about 15-20 minutes south of Salt Lake. This is why it's so important to know about trends. So this is the big Adobe facility right now, and it's just an amazing building. And as soon as that went in, there was just this kind of gas station area here with a few old buildings. A lot of them have come down now. And, some of these home developments have been started, but boy, then it just really took off. So all this in the last 10, 12 years is new. And now there's this great big mall outlets that has gone in. There's a big Cabela's, which I really enjoy that store. Okay. My wife doesn't enjoy visiting it with me anymore. There's all kinds of retail that has gone in now and several other Class A office spaces. This is a little bit dated because now there's several large Class A office space that have gone up around here. So I know that the city on tax negotiations and Chamber of Commerce and city ambassadors, they had meetings and meetings and meetings. And that's why another great source is looking at city council notes. This is about as fun as watching paint dry. Code enforcement meetings when a developer goes in and starts to get approval for their project, which I have done. There's a wealth of information sometimes that you can find if you're willing to spend the time to go scour through council meeting notes. And then go talk to your councilman. Okay, talk to the mayor. The mayor is always in promotion mode and they want to get reelected. So they're trying to bring in tax revenue, new growth, fun things, and talk to your local municipality and so forth. It's just a wealth of information that you can get. And they always have events and things like that. Okay. All kinds of great resources locally that you can tap into. Calling a handful of local agents as well, just to get a bead on what's going on. You're going to get real estate agents that only tell you the good things. You're going to find agents that will be straight up with you and say, hey, look, there's a lot of good things going on, but man, I'd stay away from this part of town. There's some issues with, something or whatever. The roads are terrible over there, or what have you. So within, a day or two of making a handful of calls, doing your research, you're going to start to get a really good feel for what's going on in a market. Here's another amazing resource, guys, for market street, on the street intel. Okay, on the street. Property managers. I'm not kidding you guys, okay? If you go and talk to a handful of property managers, the ones that are willing to spend a few minutes with you over the phone and say, look, I am looking at this market to invest in. And of course, I think most of them are going to talk to you because if you end up with rental properties in the market, who do they want to earn your business, right? So at the top of Google, you got Fox Management and so forth. And they're going to tell you about their team. And nobody, in my opinion, in the real estate industry knows the streets better than a good property manager and their team, because they're out there every day repairing properties. They will tell you areas that they will not oversee and manage. And some of the best intel I've gotten over the years is calling a property manager and I'll say, hey, I'm looking at these 3 houses over on this side of the town, or I'm going to start investing in some of the tax debt and buy some tax lien certs. If I end up with a house, what do you think the rents might be on that? And they'll stop me. Say, Sean, you are crazy if you buy over there. Here's why. Okay? Where the schools are out of money and they're shutting down that elementary school, you're going to see an exodus coming out of there, young families, and the neighborhood's going to go downhill, whatever it might be. So property managers, an incredible wealth of information, okay, and the owner resources. Now, again, I'm not saying property managers, there's not a bad one here or there that might try to get some extra fees out of you from time to time, or they're just lazy or sloppy. You got to watch that too. And I've ran into a handful of bad ones. So resources, here's a great one, value statement, okay? They're telling you what they think. I love that. I love the fact that a company would tell me what their goals are and so forth. So, affinity property management, okay? Apartment search, apply, careers, philosophy. Not everybody's going to spend the time to give you a little market update, but more than likely you're going to get somebody that will and give you a wealth of information. Okay. So anyway, labor, local resources, chamber of commerce, city council, property managers, real estate agents, other business owners. Many times when we're investing very heavily into one particular area, I will talk to homeowners if I see them out in the street. We've made dozens and dozens and dozens of trips to Florida because we're so heavily invested into Florida. It's one of my favorite spots in the world. And when we go there, we're doing our boots on the ground trip, and we'll go in target neighborhoods. We will drive. This is a day. We check into a moderately cheap hotel with fast Wi-Fi. I don't care what it is, but this is what we do when we do our boots on the ground, guys, in market research and selecting a target market. Is we'll roll into town, get the cheapest flight we can, usually my team of 2-3 guys. We get a car, usually a mid-size SUV, and this is giving you the real nitty-gritty because I want to be able to put a local agent in the car with me, some of our local sourcers or people that do my drive-by pictures for me. And it's a big group thing in many cases. And so we'll start out grabbing a quick breakfast at about 7 a.m. By the time it's light enough, by 7:30, 8 o'clock, we are on the road, and we do not stop driving until it's too dark to see the properties. The only time we stop are for restroom breaks and food. And many times we're eating food in the car. And we grid pattern street by street by street, and we have a definite purpose even before we leave to go on the trip. And if I see some guy out on mowing his yard, or people out, I'll stop and talk to them. I'll talk to the guy at the gas station. Every real estate sign, we're calling. I mean, there'll be a navigator, a driver, and somebody taking notes. We'll usually have a laptop or an iPad going for navigation. And I'll show you some of the other tools that we use so we can get real-time property values, depending on cellular coverage in the location. If we can get good data coverage, we can get extra stuff like that. But man, it's a working trip, and we're exhausted. And I remember one of my young analysts, Parker, great guy, but he's going to school for business administration, and he's working for us during this time period of him going to school. And he made a joke one time. He's like, "Oh, you guys going on another one of your little vacations, right?" And I said, "Yeah." And so the very next trip, Parker got to come with us. And I remember the end of the first day, Parker fell asleep in the car on the way back to the hotel because we had just worn this kid out. I mean, and so, guys, there's a lot of hard work in this business, but when you start to become really familiar with a target market and you're investing more of your dollars into that market, more of your partners, if you're gathering cash partners and private investor money, I'm telling you that eventually you may want to get into that market and do these kind of boots on the ground trips. And I can tell you unequivocally, every time I have gone on another trip, I learn something new every time where there's new developments or this new area that's become hot or an area that maybe has cooled down a little bit or it's been built up enough to where it's not, there's not as much activity. And so I'll kind of stop and focusing our targeting of investing so much in that area, whether it's buying tax lien certificates or properties themselves. Okay, now let's talk about rental markets here, moving on to the next section. There's a lot of great data that you can get out there on what rental prices are. And like I said earlier, I think your best street intel after you look at raw numbers on a few of these sites is your property managers. Okay. But I'll open these up. Rent range, for example. Now this is a high-end analytic product that's not cheap, it's not free. But if you start to build a larger portfolio, I've met with the owners of this company at a recent conference in Dallas. And we met with the owner and some of their executives just to talk about our data needs. And they were really, really great people. And trust me, these guys, it's like talking to professors. And we have no financial interest in rent range, by the way. There's no affiliation relationship here or compensation. But I was just really impressed with the owners and their reports. They gave us a lot of samples of what they do. Okay, so that's a company that maybe down the road you might look at. There's obviously some free services out there. And so let's go just very briefly. Let me grab an address here, just from one of our recent properties. Let's see, 2508 Jordan. Let's see, make sure what street that's on. I mean, what market? Okay. I think it's Kansas City, might be Independence. Let's just put MO. You guys are gonna have to bear with me live. Okay, we found this property. Oh, Granite City, that's right. Okay, and type, single family, that I believe was a 3-1. Square footage, let's see. Fair, smaller, it's gonna comp low because that's smaller square footage. Let's see, our total would be about, let's just put 1,500 in there. Okay, kind of winging it here. All right, so again, this is not 100% accurate because, I'm gonna weigh all this with what I hear from my property managers on the ground. Now, rent estimates per month, market value estimates, honestly, just my opinion, I wouldn't pay extra. This is just going to give me a ballpark of where my ranges are at in rent comps, okay? And this is such a wide variance in value, it's absolutely worthless, okay? I'm just going to say, this is not a bad site. It's going to give you a quick range of rents, that's pretty easy to go get for any company, but this doesn't mean a thing, okay? Another resource is actually HUD itself, the government. U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development gathers a ton of data on fair market rents. Okay, probably if you're willing to go onto their website here, huduser.gov, go into their portal and their data sets. Okay, you just keep clicking through till you get to their data sets section here. Massive amount of information on a particular area. Okay, so I'm going to open up this particular data set, what their current numbers are for 2016, and let's pick a state. I'm going to pretend somebody shouted out Georgia. Okay, once you get into the Georgia rental data set, then you've got your counties, and let's say somebody just shouted out Bacon County. So it goes to the next screen. And here we go. Based on their data, now let's talk about where they're getting their data from. Remember, the federal government, local governments supply housing subsidies and on rentals like Section 8, the Veterans Affairs is a huge rental subsidy program. So I've received VA money. I've received local county program money. Not me personally, but for my renters, and what we call Section 8 money for the renters that have occupied our properties over time, many, like hundreds over time. And now the fair market rents that Section 8 might set in a local geographical area, these local people are dialed in because they get audited, meaning they have to provide a lot of data to their superiors on what fair market rents are so they can justify what subsidies they're paying out. So on a 3-bedroom property, for example, that they're putting an average number on of 800, well, here's how Section 8 might work in that instance, is that Section 8 might pay 550 of that payment, and then the particular person that's living there in that property might have to pay 250 for their portion, okay? So they really have to bring in a lot of data and justify how much of our taxpayer hard-earned money, okay, goes in to support this program, all right? And I'm not trying to make political statements here, guys. I'm just saying it's very important that they do their job well in stewardship of the taxpayer money that gets spent on this program to help people out, all right? So amazing data sets here that are going to give you, again, just another view. So by the time I've looked at HUD rental information, Rental Meter is another site, Zilpie, Rent Range if you want to pay for more high-end data, and then talk to local property management, a handful of realtors, you're going to have a really good idea of what fair market rents are. Now, what in the world does this have to do with tax lien certificate investing? You know, if your whole goal and methodology is just to buy tax liens for the return on interest, I get that. But what I want to say, guys, is I want to prepare you that if you ever get the property back, that you're going to be able to have every chance to make it profitable, whether it's a flip or a rental. So I go into it with a complete risk management mindset and mitigating risk that if I can't make money on the end product, if I ever end up with it, I don't buy the tax lien certificate, period. End of deal. Now, I told you again, a confession, I lost $500 on that property up in Marion County, that crack house. Excuse my French. And I blew it on that one. okay, because I couldn't see the future. And we look back on it, we actually hit that property in one of our drive-bys. We went and actually talked to the people that were there in the property and told them that they had a few days to get out. And it was kind of a sticky situation when we were there because they pretended like it was their house, and then we showed them the deed and that we're the owners. And they're like, oh, yeah, we'll get out. So I don't want you to end up in that situation whenever possible. Okay? That's why we're going over this stuff. All right? That's the purpose of this. All right. So think tanks, more data. Guys, this is really fun. I love this element of the business. A service that we subscribe to, there's several like I was talking about, but one of them is called Metro Study. It's owned by a large company named Hanley Wood. The great thing about this service that we pay for is they offer a lot of free market data in their blog. And this is how I discovered them. I subscribed to this blog because it covered several of the markets that we're investing in, and they had their economists that they have on staff writing these articles. And I just absolutely fell in love with their blog for, probably a 2-year period. And then I went to our investors and / owners of our company, and I said, guys, look, we have got to sign up for this service. Not only would it be an amazing benefit to our clients for our own personal investing, what an amazing resource. Now, I'm not saying that you guys have to go spend a ton of money on these really high-end data services, because that's why you come to us, okay? Because we supply a lot of this data to you in the services that we render to you as our long-term, we want to earn your long-term loyalty in business, okay? So let's just go over Orlando housing market, for example, local view. And it's not always good news in here, okay? And I want to know the good and the bad news. So Orlando housing market, significant growth in starts and closings, housing inventory increased 32%, blah, 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 okay? So I can read this report, and they're giving me actual stats, and I've been to almost all of these areas except for a couple. And so let's say I want to know more about that particular region. Okay, what's nice is, let's say you want to invest in the Austin market. We'll subscribe to their blog. Okay, great updates. And it's taking its time there. It could be let me try it again, guys. I have about 1 million. Let me take this out to the regular browser. I've got so much open on my computer right now. It's probably going slow. Nope, it's starting to come in. Okay, this is an area that we actually invest in heavily for tax liens. That we invest in building lots in is this particular Metropolitan Statistical Area, or MSA. Now that MSA term, you guys, I want to make you familiar. As you're going out and doing market research, you're going to hear that term MSA said many times. All it is it's a Metropolitan Statistical Area, so that could be a combination of several towns or cities because they're tied to an economy. In this case, with Naples and Fort Myers and doing market research, here, when we originally started investing in tax liens in what we would call the Southwest MSA of Florida, it's on the other side of the state, on the non-Miami, Fort Lauderdale, high-end beach side, okay? This is more retirees. We did a lot of research in this MSA, and I'm gonna pull up the map here, and I'll show you what I mean by that. I was just looking at a lot over in Port Charlotte that's in that same MSA, again, Metropolitan Statistical Area, which is the southwest quadrant of Florida. So you can see here, Fort Myers, Naples, Bonita Springs, Cape Coral, and we have probably purchased over 8,500 building lots in this area. I would say roughly about $1.5 million worth of tax liens in just these areas, which encompasses about three counties. So Lee County, Port Charlotte County, and up here now to the north, Sarasota County. So some of those redemptions that I was showing you earlier, guys, came out of this sector of Sarasota County, recent redemptions. So we're still active up in here a lot. And so this was a lot right here that we're looking at, investing in, okay? And just amazing. And if we drop in the street here, this particular community is called South Gulf Cove, and I've grid patterned almost every street in South Gulf Cove. And they're building a nice semi-custom home here. Okay, there's still land available, but lot prices in here are anywhere from $15,000 for a dry lot, and the tax lien on that might be about 800. No, not even that much. Sorry, that's on a wet lot. On a dry lot, the tax lien range would be roughly about $350 annually. Okay, and growth is going crazy down here. Okay, building starts are up. In fact, I just ran some reports, and I'll get into this here in just a minute. I have these live. I did some stuff on Cape Coral, and this is their version of the Chamber of Commerce. So they gave me the retail marketplace profile so I could see how retail sales were going. That's part of my market research as well. Okay. Also, I did like a demographics look as well. A lot of retirees, okay, and that's kind of one of our main market targets for resale is retirees in this area, okay. I get to see home value pie charts, and all this was free off of their Chamber of Commerce site, and I pulled down these reports, okay. And I'll go into this live in just a moment, you guys. But this is a quick snapshot report, and it's going to show me employment. And they're pulling at the bottom of the report. I'll pull one live for you here shortly. But they actually pull this data from the U.S. Department of Labor and Statistics, and it gives a disclaimer at the bottom of the report. So 10-year average is 8% because they got hit hard during the downturn. A year ago, 4.9. The current employment rate's 4.3. That's a trend I like to see. Now, in certain areas, you're going to see dips, and you guys will know your markets, maybe even your local markets, and you know sometimes it is seasonal or based around a particular industry. Florida is very seasonal, for example, in tourism and fishing and golfing, tournaments. They also, in this region, one of the things I discovered from driving there is it's a huge area for training facilities for the National Baseball League. And for the spring training facilities, they have multi-million dollar training facilities for the spring training camps. And when spring training's in, I mean, the capacity in the hotels, we found this out the hard way for rental cars and hotels, you can't book it. So we had to book well in advance. The first time I went there was in May, and I had a difficult time. So there's seasonal trends, things like that you're going to find out, and how you can capitalize on different local economic factors that you wouldn't know unless you did some of this particular research. I'm also pulling in data, and most of this you can find free out there as well through, again, Chamber of Commerce, local economic councils that are sponsored by either the county or city level. And I'll show you a couple of examples of those as well. But man, what a wealth of data. They're telling you that 75% of all home transactions were just regular resale. Foreclosures are way down in this sector over the last 5 years. Foreclosures, these are bank-owned sales of banks that are selling their properties, and brand new builds, 7%. Okay. The lot size, so I'm targeting to buy building lots or buy tax liens on building lots, and we've gotten several of those. By the lot size, this is about 1/4 of an acre if you look at how big that is in acreage per square foot. Okay, so just amazing statistics that you guys can pull in that, again, can make you a local marketing expert fairly quickly. And sites like Metro Study can give you a lot of great free data on how you focus where you're going to target buying your tax liens or real estate transactions. Okay, and again, they have they don't cover everywhere. Okay, but enough to really give you a good idea of what's going on in particular markets before you even spend a dime. Okay. Another favorite one that I really like is Altos Research. They have paid services, but they've got some great free services as well. So we were just talking about the Southwest region of Florida. So let's just do Cape Coral. Okay. And try it now. Enter your city. So I love this little free report, you guys. And I use it regularly. The median single family home price as of June 17th is $316,000. Okay. And they give you a 7-day barometer here, which quite frankly, I don't really pay attention to that a whole lot. But the 90-day is what I'm really looking at. And again, a lot of seasonal stuff going on here in this area. Okay. And then we've got market action index. This is a cool one. All right, so let's talk about what the definition of their market action index is as a real estate investor. So let's just go take a look at their definition of this. We developed the market action index, or MAI, so you immediately know if it's a buyer's or seller's market. 30 plus indicates a seller's market. One of the unique market statistics, blah, blah, blah. Okay, our subscribers ask about the stat, how we created it. So they're going to tell us what it talks about. The market action index illustrates the balance between supply and demand using a statistical function of current rate of sales versus current inventory. So again, supply and demand there. An MAI greater than 30 typically indicates a seller's market, aka possibly a hot market, because demand is high enough to quickly absorb available supply. When I look at something like that, I'm thinking flip. That's a flipper's market potentially. Okay, a hot market will typically cause prices to rise. MAA values below a 30-day indicate a buyer's market, indicating a cold market. Now, if it's really bad, I'm just going to pass on the market. But honestly, guys, there's strategies that we can use when we're doing market research and determining the market health or what direction it's doing right now, whether or not maybe we want to do a long-term hold. Because if it's a buyer's market and the market's slow, we might be able to get better deals. And if the rents indicate that we can cash flow, then we hold that property on a rental until the market changes into a hot market. And as we know, most in general, real estate markets cycle in about a 5 to 7 year period. Now that's not gospel. Don't completely bank on that. Because I will tell you this, I was surprised in the downturn after, say, 2008, I was really surprised on how low the market got. And I did not foresee property values dropping in certain sections of the country as low as they dropped. I mean, that was, I think, surprised all of us, and how long we would stay down in that trough. And there are certain parts of the country that have not fully recovered, as we all know. Okay. So again, as you're looking at a statistic like this, market action index, it can give you some quick indicators of what's going on in the immediate market, and you can decide, hey, do I want to bid on these tax liens in this market, or maybe I'll just pass, or maybe I'm going to change up my strategy. Another couple of statistics I really like are average days on market. If you're an industry insider or whatever, or you've been in the industry for a while, you just call this DOM. Hey, what's the DOM on that property? If we're using the right vernacular. Days on market, getting an average days on market as part of your analysis of any real estate investment is really important, because it's a gauge of how hot the market is. It also helps you set your pricing. Meaning this, guys, here's another big secret. I guess if there's a secret in the industry, price is a function of time in real estate. Price is a function of time. Let me illustrate this with a few examples, okay, as you're analyzing markets and real estate investments. You can have a property that you've determined through doing comparable sales and so forth and so on that it's worth $100,000. And you think, wow, I've put some granite countertops in it. and I've done the landscaping, and oh my gosh, I've done some extra things into this property that are going to harvest above fair market value. Maybe that's a risk, right? But you listed at 110. And what I will tell you is that it's going to elongate your average days on market or your days on market for that price. If you want to sell a property in one day, okay, any property that you buy in this business, no matter what you spend on it, I will make you a guarantee on this. This is the one guarantee I'll give you throughout this whole lesson material. If you want to sell that property in one day, list it on the MLS openly and publicly for $1. You will sell it in a day, okay? Now that's a stupid example, I know that, but price is a function of time. If you overprice it, if you price it at the top of the market, you can look at what other properties are selling for at other price ranges, and you can gauge an average days on market or DOM. And if you know that you need to sell it faster, you can target it for, say, a 90-day sale by looking at other properties that have sold within 90 days that are comparable sales to your property, okay? So that's why average days on market is so critical for us, whether we're flipping, buying tax lien certificates, going to tax deed auctions. We have a rental property strategy on when we're going to put that property back in the market. So when average days on market starts to dip in a certain market, and you've been sitting on a rental property for 2 years waiting, you're going to be watching a statistic like average days on market to say, look, it's time. Let's list that property. The tenant's lease is coming due, or we'll give them $1,000 to relocate to a different spot, and we'll break the lease. I mean, legally, of course, and through cutting a deal with them and making them sign some more paperwork. No, I've done that. And average days on market gives you many different indicators that you'll want to be watching as a tax lien investor and a real estate investor in general. Median price per square foot. Really, the price per square foot, you guys, is an indicator that is an equalizer amongst looking at different properties. And that's for houses in general. But on rental properties, it's a little bit different. We have what's called a cap rate method of determining which is a better investment property based on cap rate. Okay. But the price per square foot, why is that important? Oops, they're down there. Sorry, guys. Why is that important? Because you can compare apples to apples. So you can look at one property and it's $83 per square foot. The other one is $92 a square foot, and you feel like the $83 a square foot is a better value. Sometimes it's hard to gauge when you're looking at a property, 1,500 square feet, and different prices and amenities and things like that. Sometimes it just boils down to price per square foot. Okay. Total inventory. Now, look, you can see there was a bit of a jump in inventory. I know why this is for that area because we invest there. It's because there's been a ton of new builds. All of a sudden, you start to see that inventory they put up on the market sell. Okay, and when supply tends to drop, economics 101, price tends to rise. Now there are other mitigating factors sometimes that change that basic law of economics. That's why you got to keep a beat on the marketplace to know if a plant's about to shut down, for example. Okay. All right. City data. Now, look, this is a particular website that I see bandied around the internet quite a bit. And I see some of the other training programs that say, oh, city data is the bomb and it's great. And I will tend to agree with that for the most part, but a couple cautions on city data, okay? So let's go to Birmingham, Alabama, okay? It's going to give you a lot of good general information. My opinion is that Google is going to do about the same thing as city data. If you type in Birmingham, Alabama to Google, you're going to get a lot of this same free stuff that these guys gather together. So this is a free site to go to, And the way that a site like City Data makes their money is they sell ad space. Or if you click through this, Google pays them a referral fee for the click through. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just trying to help you understand what these sites do, okay? And they give a lot of good general information, but understand this, guys, okay? They're usually working off of old census data. So this data is coming from 2013. And remember, when we were looking at rents from HUD, it was this year, this quarter, 2016. So you just have to be careful with using some of the free sites. I'm trying to give you not only free resources, but the paid websites where you have to spend money for their data, but they give you just enough free stuff to be really useful, okay? But City Data is not bad. They give you a good layout of the area, some good demographics, geography, all that stuff. Okay, so this I would use just at quick glance, but understand you could be looking at, if it's based on last census data, at this point, that's 6-year-old data that you're looking at on a site potentially like this. Okay, so that's City Data. Won't spend a lot of time on that. And trust me, we're going to come back around to Zillow, and we're going to come back around to sites like Trulia and Realty Track. I won't spend a lot of time on this right now. I will just say in general, if you don't know how to use those sites to harvest the data off of them, they will hurt you more than they will help you. Okay, and so we'll go through that, okay, in some live analyses. So those are the ones I really like for quick market research where you don't have to spend any money to go get some really good data.